All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra's lair. I'm your pal Larry, and we're back for some more Larry Does Ludum for Ludum Dare number 40, with the game jam theme of the more you have of it, the worse it gets. And to start us off on our trifecta of games here today, we have Garbage Truck Simulator, which is a jam entry made by Rixid, and Rixid, of course, has been featured on this show before, because Rixid knows that if you want Larry to do the thing, you just got to be one of the first people on the list. And this is an interesting little take on the whole jam theme. So basically what we do is we're playing as a garbage truck, and we want to get all this garbage filled up in our truck before about 5 minutes runs out, and get it back to that little square that we spawned next to at the start of this level. And at first, this is a very deceptive game. There's not a lot going on. You've got some low poly buildings, you've got a little low poly truck. Sounds like Rix had actually recorded his voice to do the sound effects for this, which I thought was great. That's definitely something that is always really fun when people do, and I love to hear that. But no, it's less about the actual act of dumping garbage with said garbage truck, and you'll probably notice it a little sooner rather than later. So I just want everyone watching to really look at me driving around this garbage truck. Don't really pay attention to the fact that I'm driving the garbage truck and getting garbage and filling up the back end, but really look at what's happening to like the FOV and what's going on with the camera, because in this case, the more garbage that we have in our garbage truck, the harder it's going to become for us to actually drive this vehicle. It actually took me a really long time to notice that this was happening. I think my garbage truck was actually like half to 2/3 full, because I've played a lot of weird games over the past 3 years that have had an unintentionally really wobbly camera. But the whole idea is, the more garbage we have, the wibblier, wobblier our camera gets, making it ever harder to maneuver our vehicle. And I thought this was actually a really clever way of handling this jam theme, because a lot of people would probably make it so that it's completely dependent on your controls, completely dependent upon like the physics of the game or the universe that you're sitting in. But in this case, it's something as subtle and simplistic as just messing with your ability to see where you're going and to orient your body in space, while also trying to work from a timer. So if the timer runs out, you know, we lose. But the idea is we try to get as much stuff in here as we can back to there so we can restart the countdown. And I wouldn't say win the game, but we get our job done. And I'd say this, if I had to talk about this on like a lore perspective, I'd say this is probably like, you're a first day garbage man and you really don't handle the smell of rotting dumpster juice that well. And the more slop you get in the back of your truck, the worse your queasiness gets, until the point where you're like zigzagging across the road, which I think is fair. I don't think garbage sanitation pickup is necessarily a charming or particularly romantic job to do, but it certainly pays the bills, and somebody's gotta do it. And to all those garbage men and women out there, we appreciate you and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So I thought this was kind of interesting. And I feel like on one hand it's really kind of cool, but at the other hand, if I pay way too much attention to the houses at the outside of the camera angle, I do start to get a little bit barfy if I pay too close attention to what's going on in the distance. So I would say it's an interesting concept, but if you were to expand upon this game and try to make it into something, maybe look at how you can make it wibbly wobbly on the edges more than right in front of you, in a way that's not distracting, so that people don't get quite so barfy. Because that does seem like a legitimate threat to my well-being right now, is throwing up on my microphone. That said, I mean, this is really the game. You get all the garbage you can, fill up the garbage truck, get back to the end point, and then you get a score based upon, I'm assuming, how much time you had left, and if you actually got a full load of garbage. So how much are we gonna get? I got about 2017, 2020 last time. So I guess I did a little bit better because I was literally down to like 5 seconds last time. And then once you turn in the garbage, your camera reverts to what it was. So I think this works. I mean, it's definitely not what I was expecting for the Jam title. It's just I'm thinking about what would you do with this game? The controls feel solid. The sounds feel solid. There's this weird bar in the middle of the screen, though. I don't know why there's this weird bar. There's just like this black shape. Not black shape, like a green rectangle that slowly starts to appear in the center of the screen. And there's like a bar at the top and a bar at the bottom where it doesn't affect the screen that much. Or at all. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but that could probably just, you could leave that out. Because that just seems to obscure the screen in a way that's unnecessary. But other than that, I really don't have any quantifiable feedback. Because all the graphics, while low poly, they feel like they're together. They belong in the same game together. And I guess what you could potentially use this for as a concept is I would totally see this as like a riff on all of the simulator games, because it's like every year there's like farming truck simulator or, you know, Cabbage Patch Doll simulator, the growing grass simulator, which is an actual thing that was on Steam. You can literally watch grass grow. I personally was going to check out a farming simulator game that was in beta. It was one of like Farming Simulator something something something. It had this really long name. And something happened and the beta got closed and then I couldn't get a key. So you could definitely like, I've played a few of these and they're not bad simulators, but I definitely think you could make fun of them or do like a comedic parody on them, kind of like jazz punk, based around the concept of this garbage truck, or maybe you're just like a city sanitation worker. So instead of doing just one job, where some people in the audience might get bored to death of it before the game is even halfway done, you could instead do like different odd jobs around town in a little, you know, small utopian city where in reality, all of the things only seem like they're a utopia because of one dude keeping the whole thing running and not exploding. And there's there's like some more dystopian humor and sci-fi humor in there that I think you could exploit. Or you could make like a literal just goofy simulator. A literal goofy simulator riffing on Euro Truck Simulator or something. I don't know. It's a solid entry though, and I like it. Little barfy after a while. So take that how you will. Really nice job though. Always lovely to play one of Rixid's games. Alright, next up we have Necromancer, which is a compo entry made by Orc Draco. I think that's what I wrote on my sticky note. I apologize if I miswrote that and mispronounced that. Sometimes my handwriting gets a little carried away with me when I'm writing on a sticky note. And Necromancer is a game where we are playing as this cute little... I don't know if it's a kid or if it's just a representation of a person that just happens to be short because that's the art style. And our job is we need to go through this graveyard and gather together a bunch of zombified skeletons, get them a key to the demonic portal, enter the demonic portal to eventually get to the end of the game. And let me just jump in here by pressing on normal mode. I'm not quite fancy enough for nightmare mode just yet. So essentially what we've got to do is we have to manage these skeletons, because contrary to popular belief, legions of the undead are not very versed in combat. So if a dog comes along and wants to eat one of their bones, there's literally nothing that they're going to do to stop it. So we have to use our evil magic and our life force to hurl magic at them to stop them. And to restore our health, because everything drains our health from raising the dead, we have to eat pizza. And then in order to get all of these zombified skeletons through the portal, we have to arm them with a key to the afterlife in the form of a lava lamp. I actually really like the fact that you put a lava lamp in here, because I recently just got done with a foray into reacquiring my very own lava lamp because I realized that the cat that used to knock my lava lamp over and potentially ruin it is no longer among the living. So I have a new lava lamp because the old one was broken, and I'll actually just throw, like, in the corner of the screen right now my lava lamp, just so I can show you that I am, in fact, a lava lamp aficionado. So as you can see, as we play through here, our health, as denoted by this lovely slice of pizza up here, goes down whenever we pick up one of these skeletons. And we also lose health whenever we use our death ray ability, which we just use our arrow keys to fire a blast of energy. And that slowly drains our health 1 point at a time, but it's the only thing that we have to fend off foul poochies. And boy, they are hungry for these sweet, sweet, delicious bones. I don't know what these skeletons were in life, like this guy might have been a janitor or something, but in death, they are the most succulent, flavorful thing. But unfortunately, they just gnaw on these skeletons and make them go back to sleep, and we can't have that if we want to go to the underworld. Unfortunately, one of the comments I have about how the game controls, I'm using 3 points of control on my keyboard. I gotta use WASD to control stuff. I gotta shoot with the arrow keys, and I gotta use my mouse to click on things like this pizza in order to interact with stuff. And that's very kind of tedious and I think a little unnecessary in the grand scheme of things. Simply because all you really have to do is allow me to, as the character, walk up to this lava lamp, press space, and then I can pick that up instead. I'm also having some issues with some of the hitboxes where they overlap a little bit much, and it's hard to click on a skeleton without putting one of these to sleep and wasting health, which is probably more to do with lack of time for the jam than anything else. But overall, I think this is a really fun, sort of charming game that is just missing a little something. So at present, I would say the way that it fits into the theme is that the more skeletons you have, the more of a pain in the butt it is to try and manage all of them, as I'm sure you can see. Some of them get in the way of my magical shots, which don't always seem to trigger correctly when I press the arrow keys. It's like you gotta double tap it sometimes. And you gotta like wiggle wobble around to deal with your army of the undead. And I feel like there's something to be said about that. Like making some sort of comedic Dungeon Keeper-esque game where instead of being like an RTS game where you have to indirectly manage an army of the undead, you're just like a kid who's trying to summon zombies to like defeat the local school bully. And you're just trying to deal with the undead, not realizing that they're not actually as scary as in the movies. So there's definitely lots of room where you could actually make the skeletons fight or something. Or maybe they have other powers that they give you that you wouldn't necessarily suspect as you go along through the game. I don't know. I feel like you've got a lot of options here that you can exploit. As it stands right now, it's kind of like wander around, click on stuff, find some skeletons, find the demonic portal, click on the demonic portal before the dogs nibble you to death, and that's really about it. So I like the concept. I think it's got a kind of a cute factor to it. The graphics are all right. I mean, they're not crazy, but I kind of like the hand-drawn style, especially of the main character. It almost feels like I'm reading from like a voodoo witch doctor manual. And it's got some nice little things where they're like, lava lamp, ooh, pizza, and stuff like that. So I think you've got something here. I'm really just not necessarily sure what it is to kind of like say what I could see it going in the future. But very nice. Just a couple little bugs and nuanced things to kind of work on for future releases, and I think you're good to go. So very nice work. Last but certainly not least, we have Peregrine, which is a jam entry. And Peregrine is a game all about stepping into the shoes of a would-be thief right after they have robbed this very large and very fancy-looking bank. Unfortunately, this particular thief, very new at thieving, has left their getaway vehicle on the other side of town, and we have to get there without losing all of our loot or our life in the process. And this is a jam entry, like I was saying, which is made by a small team who are made up of Arucula Domal, Giovanna 79, Deacon, and Virolada de Meas. And I'm hoping I am pronouncing those names correctly. And we're just going to jump in here and see what this game is all about. So here we are, we're in front of the bank, and we have all of these bags of wonderful loot. Just like Monopoly told me, every robber will be running around with a bag with a money sign on it. And also sometimes the rich guys will also have those bags. And the way that this draws into the theme almost immediately for the game jam is that the amount of weight that we are carrying directly contributes to our ability to platform around the level and trying to avoid the police. And it also functions in a way as our health. So we have to be very careful that we don't lose all of it, or else we will die, ostensibly. So there's a direct cause and effect relationship here between what we're doing. Oh, and there's a giant scary Doberman who's gonna bite us right off the bat. And what's going on with our ability to escape. There's gonna be a bunch of different things that can affect us here. There's police officers, as I'm sure you saw, and occasionally there's just some guy who's green, who, I don't know if he's a mugger, or if because it's like close to the holidays, he's like the Grinch. But we can get mugged. Like, we're an armed and dangerous villain who can literally get mugged by some guy, bitten by dogs, or nailed by police officers. And I can say right off the bat, it's a little difficult, even when you're... there's not even like a difficulty meter either. It's not like I can say like, hey, I want to play on nightmare mode right off the bat. So it can be a little bit tricky to avoid both the police and the dogs and the runners. It is nice that there is a fair bit of sound design going on in the game. Although I think I actually bugged this out, so I might have to restart this real quick. That'll allow you to know that stuff is coming to bite you. It's a little hard to determine what side that thing is going to come from and nail you, but it is there. So, I mean, I like the concept, but I think right off the bat, it kind of throws a lot at you. So, aside from the difficulty, I think that the notion of making a theft game, or a game about being like a cunning criminal, or like a cat burglar or a thief, has a fair bit of potential. Some of the best games that I've played were games like the Thief game, where you had to creatively go and rob from the rich for various reasons. In that particular game, it was a lot of trying to help with some strange plague or epidemic that was going around. And in this case, I think you could, set it up where you have to sneak in past the police without giving yourself away. Then throw on your mask and rob the bank, grabbing as much as you think you can handle, while also attempting... Oh, there's a double jump. I did not realize. Well, that just makes things woefully easier. All right. But, I mean, you gotta sneak in, and then you've got to get a hold of as much loot as you possibly can, and then get out. And then from there, it's like every little situation has a little bit of a different challenge to it. Sometimes you have to sneak around back alleys in the middle of the night. Sometimes you have to do it in the middle of the day because there's like some fancy diamond going through. And I think you could unlock different tools and different abilities, or maybe just different challenges and obstacles which you might be able to interact with differently. That would make this a very compelling thief game. Right off the bat, I would say one of the things, and maybe I say this about a lot of games, is that there is a particular amount of humor to be had in the game when you're this kind of derpy thief who's blundering and bumbling through life, trying to steal stuff, and not making a very good a try at it on the grand scheme of things. Oh, I can step on top of this police car. All right, previously the police car came at me in a couple of my test play attempts and completely just ran me down. Like, it was just, they hit me and then I was done. So I think there's a lot of charm to this game. I mean, the graphics are simplistic. There's not a ton to say there. There's some good sounds to it. The controls, while I wasn't quite certain that there was a double jump ability, are very smooth and workable and effective. I haven't had any issue with feeling like I'm slip sliding around the map. I feel like the only thing that I really have for negative feedback, aside from throwing a bunch of different obstacles at you right off the bat, is that the hitboxes for actually clicking on stuff can be a little bit touchy-feely. Like, I'm trying to click right now, I'm just kind of spamming the E button, and sometimes these bags of loot are just not having any of it. So aside from that, I mean, that's pretty minor. Usually bugs like that I just chalk up to the fact that this is a game made in a very short period of time for a game jam, so things like that inevitably happen, and there's not really a terrible amount of stuff that you're going to do about it. Oh, I see. So when you have a full contingent of loot, you lack the ability to double jump until you lose some of your loot. Alright, so that definitely makes it, like, when you're running around with the full contingent of booty, you are literally hindering yourself from being able to escape in the easiest way imaginable. Alright, I like that interplay. That's a very strong one, and definitely something I saw with another game in the previous video. So on the whole, I like the game. It's very basic right now, as I'm sure you would imagine from a jam game. I could see it going a lot of places if you wanted to expand upon it. As it stands, very direct, very straightforward, very simplistic way to handle the jam theme of money and loot is very heavy, especially big, heavy diamonds, and that makes it harder for you to escape because you can't double jump as easily. I feel like you should be able to double jump even with a full cohort of loot, because as you saw earlier, only doing a single jump severely hamstrings your character. But overall, really fun. I like the theme. Nice work. And that'll pretty much cover the end of this video for Ludum Dare number 40. I hope you guys and gals have been enjoying so far, and I intend to keep making videos all throughout the voting period, although it might be touch and go as holidays are happening because, you know, family, get-togethers, presents, gifts, New Year's, explosions, all that stuff can be a little bit hectic, so I'll try to keep the videos flowing in a timely manner without massive gaps. If you guys and gals at home are interested in submitting your games to me, I will put the link to my little Google form in the comment section below, along with the links to the games. So if you'd like to submit your game to me, you can. I still do not know if there is a posting so that I can post and be like, I'm doing Ludum Dare coverage, send me your games, like usually happens. If not, if there is, please send me a link. If not, I will just have to contact Mike, or someone send Mike a tweet to see if he's doing that, or if we're still doing that. And until next time, that's it. These have been some pretty fun games so far. A lot of very interesting ways to tackle the theme. And that's probably the funnest part of covering Ludum Dare, is just how different groups of people tackled the concept of whatever the theme is. So, until next time, I've been your host, Larry. This has been Larry Does Ludum. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.